Equity. It's more than just a word. It's more than just a philosophy of how we hire people. It actually is something we use in the workplace, and it's huge. And this area of equity is gigantic. I had a contract one time, and we part of the contract required me every so many years, I would formally have to go out and bring what's called a consultant in and actually have them do a market basket study. So the market basket study, they would look on some of the key job descriptions, and we would look at this one over here and this one over here, and then we would try to compare them to the marketplace to see how that fared in the marketplace in the salary comparison. So if you took a senior administrative assistant, you had this salary here. Let's compare it to the college next door. Let's compare it to the hospital down the street. Let's compare it to other nonprofits in the area, because that's kind of our field, because we're nonprofits. So we'd have a comparison. Well, sometimes the comparison would be exactly where it's supposed to be. Sometimes we would have to raise the salary or lower the salary technically. But I dare you to sit down there and be an organization that says, you know what? We're overpaying you. We're going to drop your salary. I have to tell you, if you want to face tar and feathers, they're going to come and put you on a log and run you out of town in that whole process. You don't want to be the person to suggest that. You just put it over there and just don't raise your salary. And sometimes you sit down there and you have an employee, they says, well, on my job, I work really hard. And you know what? Sometimes you'll have this worker over here who was stellar. They're spectacular. And if you had it in you, you would give them a 20% raise, because they are worth more than the average employee, because they give their heart and soul nonstop to the organization. Well, you have this one over here. And then you have this person over here who makes more because the scope of their job is more difficult technically, and based upon the salary study, they make more money. So here you got this person cranking out all kinds of work, and then you have this person over here who's kind of one of those people who comes dragging in late all the time. They get their work in, but it's not all that good quality and everything else, and they do anything short of doing a fabulous job, they do okay, and this person's fabulous, and this person's getting paid $5,000 less a year than this person over here. You do that study, and you confirm, and this person here, the one who's not so hot, they get an increase based upon the scope of their responsibility. And this person works hard. I have to tell you, you do these kind of studies over there, and the word equity pops up. It's not fair. Tell me what fair means. Get a dictionary out and take a look at it. And then look at this person over here and this person over here. The definition of fairness differs from person to person to person, but usually fairness is about, it's not fair to me. I have to tell you, this is not uncommon. I dreaded this study because no matter what happened, I would have 3 or 4 people hate those human resource people, and I was the head human resource person. You did this to me. You rewarded this person, and I worked so hard. Then the worst part is they were right. They were right, except I have to look at what this job is about and the responsibility scope. That's what the issue is, except the equity thing, it doesn't change. They will always believe that they were wronged in their process. So how fairly do you think you've been treated in relation to others? Sometimes numbers don't treat people well. How much do you want and how much you're likely to get? And then goal setting theory. The equity theory is really a motivation model. It talks about how employees perceive fairness in the workplace. They compare input-output ratio with that of others to determine fairness. Kind of like that market basket study. The perceived equity or inequity can impact employee motivation, satisfaction, and performance. It's really difficult. I have to tell you this concept. You need to listen to me. Equity is a big thing. How you treat people is a big thing. When it comes down to money, money isn't a true motivator. Go back and read Hertzberg, okay? But money, the equity of the money is a motivator. If everybody moves up and down at the same time, people can live with that because that's the condition they were hired in. But when you start changing the scales and the salaries, all of a sudden people start watching really close as to who got more money and why. What did they do that I didn't do? I work harder than they do. And the worst part is, a lot of times, they're right. So watch this one. This is a sleeper, and it'll get you each and every single time. Take it from me. I've been bitten multiple times by this one over here. They look at the salary, benefits, recognition. They do this comparison. I did this, they did this, and they do this whole perception on the inside. If the ratio is perceived as equal, equity is this. If it's not perceived that way, inequity exists, and it doesn't matter sometimes what the data and the facts are. The implications are fair treatment leads to higher motivation and job satisfaction. You have a behavioral response. Inequity leads to reduced effort. Well, I'm going to stop working so hard. I might even look for another job. They may never look for another job, but they'll continually be hurt and damaged as an employee in the aspect of, well, you treated them better than you treated me. No, the market basket said that. No, it doesn't matter. It's you. You're behind the whole thing. I've been there. I've heard the whole dialogue. You don't want to go through that. That's why pay attention to equity theory in the aspect of your existing employees on the inside of the organization. Make certain that you are coming across as being fair and equitable to how you treat people. Have transparent communication. Have a fair reward system. Don't sit down because you got a squeaker over here who squeak, 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 squeak. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Okay, don't sit down and reward that person. And the one who's been there every single day doing their job quietly in the corner that is intrinsically rewarded by the work, but they work hard and dependable, do not forget them. Pay attention to them and reward them more than the squeaker because of the fact that that is the backbone of your organization. Pay attention. It's called equity. Regular feedback. So you start looking at that, the elements of equity theory, compare the inputs and outputs. You want to have the justice theory, distributive, procedural, interactional. You want to have all this aspect by the time you're looking as to how fairly you're being treated in relation to others. Look on the inputs, and then you need to sometimes step back, look at their inputs. Look at their inputs. What is appropriate? Just because somebody makes a lot of noise doesn't mean the noise is relevant. Sometimes you've got to pay attention to who is doing the work and what are the inputs and the outputs in the process. Expectancy theory is very similar. Expectancy, the instrumentality, and the balance. You're looking at a theory to motivate employees. Here is the effort. In order to achieve top performance, will I be able to do it? No. Well, give me more money. Sometimes that is not a way to motivate people, but sometimes it is. What is going to be the outcome if I do this over here? How much do I really want the outcome? How much do I want to have this promotion over here? Sometimes you sit down and you pay attention to that. This type of theory, expectancy theory, is really becoming more popular, especially with Gen Z and also with the millennials, as to is the outcome, is it worth it? If I work Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, 8 to 12, and I miss time with my family, it may not be worth it in my value system, so I don't want to do it. Those are expectancy theories. So pay attention to that. Look on stretch goals, goals that can stretch them and make them a better employee. There's different types of goal orientations, and there's an awful lot of things in the aspect of the expectancy theory as well as the equity theory. Keep in mind, fairness is always a variable measurement. It depends who's measuring. If you're measuring it, hopefully you better be doing a good job. But when the employees measure it, your measurements may not be the least bit care to them because they want to view fairness from their own lenses, and you can't blame them because it's called being human. Create reasonable data and communicate, 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 and communicate. Equity is a big deal. It's a structural issue as well as a true motivational issue within your organization, and you have to pay attention to it because if you don't, it'll sit down and be one of those sleepers that'll sit down there and rest, and people can become bitter and hateful over a period of time because of something that made sense to implement, but they viewed it as unfair because it wasn't communicated well, or maybe it doesn't matter how it was communicated, they will always view it in a negative tone. Equity theory, know it. Take care.